and love to be here. I'm sorry I had to come so late. I've been doing double business this evening, I'm afraid. But great to be here with a number of poets I really love and whose pamphlets I've bought and enjoyed. So great to be joining you in that 2019 set. Yeah, Spandrel Routine's a tricky sequence to read from, particularly in 10 minutes. And what I've decided to do is kind of cut a slice through it. The sequence of in quite abstract poems which I composed over a number of years, and I thought the best way to sort of talk way into it is there are two poems from either end of the connection which kind of form a couple in a certain kind of way, and I want to read both of those and allow them to stand as a pair, one in from each end of what I'm going to read. And then around that, I suppose I wanted to sort of bring out some of the other poems, which sort of share interests and share some of the things that sequence is kind of obsessed with in its strange and complex ways. One of them is Shakespeare's The Tempest, which is a kind of ur-text in different ways for various poems in the sequence. One of them is the Italian poet Eugenio Montale's poem The Eel, L'Anguilla, which one of those poems is kind of a translation of, but which is kind of lurking in various ways in other poems too. One of the things that poem particularly kicked off in me is thinking about migration and Europe as a site of migration in the contemporary landscape. Yeah, so I'll just say those as kind of things to sort of sit with and hover with as I read this run of 5 poems, and then we'll see how much time we've got after that. And I'm reading off a PDF, you've got to excuse me because I gave all my copies of Spandrel away. So here we go. Accustomed. Anything which is anything besides air is not let in the carriage, and the whole body's racked with a whistle. Some fresh touch is moving in for the entourage, wasting it like a ripple across a butt that the sedge hasn't troubled. In one world I happily set the planet to coast as the masks make a descending noise and the manual goes out the window. I would be ready to be beached on my own island, to hold it like my chest in the so-cool chaos, staring out and making do with this upright piano, this smile of cheese wire. In the other abode this bubble pops and my teeth unpick the paper rim. Up among the sleeping, the archeries make a standard shudder and keep their end of twining, bringing you back to you. Insinuated. Bunched up for ardour, all the eels leave the crush hall standing for the great cartels of the plain. Eel is on a fresh course with its own form of submission and target. Eel sung through, but as distinctive in its mating and feasting gestures as a journey out and back. Eel as one of the speaking courtesans. Eel as sweet as an absence panel when the water rushes the past around it, then runs straight into the past like a pistol whip. By this point, the eel is understood to be our nerve endings. Tough old wings stuffed with eel, stuffed in turn in an overstated take on livery, and breathing in hard red lines. Under the radar, I will be mandated to say the oil paid for its own transit. Without it, the eel was running and running, but wouldn't have got us to the turnpike. An eel has its eye of you, opens onto a clean window and scans the heat off you in the jumping fountain. In the tenement halls, it's still the pigeon's job to hit. Cradled. We developed the Utopia warehouses, we put to rest in the Utopia containers, and the numbers, holding as close as they may to the ring road without freezing, were known just to the numbered themselves. They were the secret many kept backed on the wall we tended with paper and gum. Everything tacked, and we all saw the cursory tacks we all made, bar by uncrossed bar, while overhead went the cry to extend the charge of Paris right to the sea. If the work makes us into history, we made it here in beaten vessels, as a goat with its face in it, and a dove in the form of a fetching mouse, riddling out their own passes from bank to bank. The bowers will bend as far as we can throw them, and as long as I can judge the weight from pulses and meal by touch, till you bow, till the bag breaks. Implied. At from moving, Ferdinand as baboon, or Ferdinand played as worm, leech, protozoa, the thud of my life. Ferdinand gone over with the rake on the fat of the hands. Ferdinand as an atlas for dust, as windfall and as elephant. Against the spirit of the thing, a shot on him as a partisan over the course of the final days, his love burying him upside down in the hay, projected to slash and bathe Sebastian's faith in the dark. At chess, even when within, I proposed him to be another angel, watching all this with the pen for it as his lips, as a man taking up room, as a lad who will not be participant with the woods he's raising, prone to demanding the trees be their own tax belt. Then, delivered whistling, as if it will be run through and will be done as prose, Ferdinand knocks the lights out on himself at the mass for the evening of the world, leaves his thinking carapace at the altar, scoots to his own extinct event. Absurd. Last poem in the sequence as well. And when we wake as we will to the dark rain on the ledges and in the sitting pools, knowing it all must be run up against our lives, we will not give up the stops, nor remember when we woke not seeing each other each morning devoid of glasses. We will have entertained it ourselves ball to ball and worn it out each time, that I would be splayed today and you might be gilded tomorrow. I am making a lay off it as all our witnesses bob out the door and by it and into the woods. They do shifts in the canopy, and their cold call goes now, and always has, like a hog of foreign powers, like no leaf unabated. Sundering it does. I am left here stitching. You go about on the blast as it happens, as if they knew how, to the game of Dead Man's Opera, to the system's settings change. As we've got a few more minutes, I'll just read two more poems. A couple of the poems in this sequence are addressed to people, sort of vaguely, sort of secretly by initials. A lot of the motivation for writing the sequence it emerged gradually out of poems that I wanted to write for people. I still don't know whether I'm a poet or not, and you know when and how and if I want to continue putting poems into the world. And it was very generative of me to just think about actually I just want these poems to go to people and be addressed to people, and we'll see how texts and publications and what have you gather and emerge around that. So yeah, it's lovely that those are kind of the skeleton of this collection, and I hope they continue to be with whatever I go on to write. One I'll read. I was invited to write a poem for the late Roddy Lumsden, who passed away must be coming up to about 15 months ago now, early in 2020. A great poet and editor who in his late illness began writing poems for people, including apparently one for me, which I haven't seen. And people were invited to write poems back to him in return. So this is for him. And there's another poem in there, which is, since he was mentioned at the start, for Dominic and for Varney Capildeo, another great friend of mine. Also wanted to sort of read that poem, as well as, yeah, the joy of being published in a stable alongside Loving myself. On this Feast of the Ascension, Varney was baptized recently. And so I want to sort of, yeah, have a chance to rejoice in that as well. So rendered for R and then manifest for V and D after that, and then I'll finish. Would that it all were like this, all this, but there would be no songs that were not colophones added on impromptly in biro, and each last end stop, each staple would make for the centre, only to rustle up and to go their merry ways. No patrol would be warranted, and all this would mean no mean bliss, when things really must rattle a play out over the system, like cans in the streets. Listen, in the saxophone that goes for industry standard, or in somebody's howl for a referee, lies something like Coke in the Hills, or a strain of it. I think this might be it for me. When I hear the number come off with a file to my back, I'll stay at it, here where love is a match for its furnacing, where all this means happiness, or not at all, where I'd only like to make the world its toast and pay for tomorrow, and with every last head playing, set on the busk-changed air. We send our own down for the feast, the oils and pegs you want, the pearls, the quotes to have all storms at the neck. We applaud as you gab on the great palace steps, and so you field yourself. You break in lines of tubers, you need dung. Treacle to us will root in it like a pig in truth, our hides scruted blue by ticks and our hinds lolled like avocados. The pegs crack underhand and we ascend ourselves to fix the light gas canisters, track the bird feed intake, and line up the work through which you feel for yourself. The same pebbles skip down on the firth like lots of tin untaken. As you sing to order me, we root on for you, for your only possible orienting of things, swished about like wine in the Gulf. The rain just goes ding on the mucky roof now, and our ears go loppy, pigs for true. And I'd entirely forgotten that poem contains the line, we ascend ourselves, which is wonderfully fitting. Brilliant. Thank you very much, everyone.